I'm good. How are you? No, that's your seat there.
Very nice, huh? Good. How are you? Enjoying your vacation? Oh, good, good.
Another minute? Are you okay? Oh, that's fine. I wanted to give you the time. Morning. Good morning, everyone. It's 10:18 and calling this meeting to order. Before I read the roll call, my name is Ron O'Leary, and I'm going to read a notice regarding the public meeting. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Cuyahoga County Administration Building is closed for public meetings at this time. As this meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with House Bill 197, interested persons may access the meeting via live stream by using the following link, which is posted on the Board of Revision's website. We have not received any public comment for this meeting. Calling the roll, Councilman Gallagher.
Here.
Matt Carroll for the County Executive.
Here.
And Mike Chambers.
Here.
As I said before, we had asked that any public comments be submitted by email to me no later than 9 a.m. today. I did not receive any public comment for the meeting. Item number 3 on the agenda, approval of the minutes for January 13, 2020. Have each of the board members received copies of the minutes and had a chance to review them?
Yes. Yes.
And then do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Matt Carroll, seconded by Councilman Gallagher. I'll call the roll then. On the motion to approve. Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Chambers?
Yes.
Councilman Gallagher?
Yes.
All right, the minutes from the January 13th, 2020 meeting are approved. Item number 4, new business, adoption of the 2020 property tax abstract. I'm not sure who is, Mr. Harbaugh, are you going to?
I think everyone has a copy of it at this point. I'll just kind of explain the different documents that you have in your.
Hey, Mr. Harbaugh, is your microphone on?
It is on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Joe's on. Yeah, Joe was really the preparer of the abstract and might want to chat it up.
All right, if for anyone who is going to be speaking remotely, if you could please state your name.
Dan, I'll take the ball here.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Leary and board members. Presented to you both in a hard copy and in an email is this year's 2020 real property abstract. The abstract tracks changes over classes of property for 12 different reasons. And That's the 82-page document. Let's keep in mind that this is an assessed value, 35% of market value. and of note is probably the last page, the county's summary. To make this a little easier to read, I converted these numbers into market value. Market value is a number we talk about when you say, hey, how much did you pay for that house? So I took the summary page and I added 2 columns on the far right. There's some rounding errors when you do convert assess to market, and it's $100 here and there. I wasn't too concerned about those minuscule amounts. But they are there. To get right to the meat of the matter, in taxable value, the county is recognizing an increase of $479 million. It's a modest increase. It doesn't portray the total activity in the county because of value added value. I'll show on the next page. Doesn't necessarily show up as taxable. There's been a slight change in the reporting requirements of the state. Say, for example, when we add a building for Tri-C, we used to put it on as taxable and then negate it, showing it going on as exempt. Now the state requires us to take that known exempt value and put it right to exempt so it doesn't show up on this. It goes without saying that these numbers will be used in the calculation of the State Department of Taxation to calculate tax rates for the communities, namely the House Bill 920 credit and other items. So this is what everyone's budget is based on. If you have available to you the notes on 2020 DP 93, just to give you an idea of the activity in the county. I'll give you a second. Once again, I converted these to market value. I think people are more adept at recognizing the size and value. Overall, new construction work performed in 2019 to go on this duplicate for 1/1 of 2020. We had an overall increase of 17% in new construction. Right below it is a chart of the top 10 high flyers. It gives you an idea of the amount of value being added in the county, but necessarily taxable. The last one, number 10, progressive, is the only item on that list that doesn't have some sort of exemption or incentive. To give you some idea, there's almost $2 billion in tax increment financing on the books. That all shows up on the exempt project. And we recognize that given the climate and the construction financing, most projects of any size or shape receive some sort of incentive, if not straight out exempt. Jumping back to the market value summary, it is the far right column. You can see all the actions that come upon our total value to bring us to where we're at. Line items, number 1, $40 million in value was damaged or destroyed, and that's a normal attrition. None of these numbers are severely out of whack. And it comes down to we gained almost $500 million in taxable value, a very modest increase. Is there any questions that anyone has on any of the items I spoke to or on a different item, I'll be happy to address the best possible. And if I can't answer it, I'll be certain to get right back to you with the answer. Okay, that's hello.
We're still here.
Yes, we're still here.
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm on Wi-Fi, so sometimes my call drops and I just panic there for a second. You know, I'd be remiss without saying that the appraisal department, namely John Dobick and John Strock, have been instrumental in passing these values over from their department from appraisal to real property. Appraisal, on average, gets 80,000 permits a year from the municipalities, thins it down to around 20, sends out the appraisers, and they hunt down the values that we're reviewing today, along with the Board of Revision. Board of Revision actually, $211 million worth of value shifting in the past year.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
No, this is Ron O'Leary. I just was going to ask the board members, Mr. Chambers, Mr. Carroll, Councilman Gallagher, anyone have any comments or questions?
I'm good.
I don't.
I'm good.
All right, so then could I have a motion to adopt the 2020 property tax abstract?
So moved.
Gallagher.
Second, whatever.
All right,
Second.
motion by Mr. Chambers, second by Mr. Carroll. I'll call the roll then. Councilman Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Chambers.
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Board has adopted the 2020 tax abstract. Moving to other business, there are two items. I had previously sent the board members each of these items. The first of them is to amend the minimum qualifications for hearing officers. The charter requires that the board adopts qualifications for hearing officers for the Board of Revision. We currently don't have any openings, and I don't expect to have any openings in the near future. But in reviewing the minimum qualifications with the hearing officers, there were some amendments that we proposed. So does anyone have any questions about the proposed amendments to the minimum qualifications?
I don't.
All right, so then,
Ron, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Will you do a quick summary, real quick?
Sure. The main reason why I started looking at this was because of our foreclosure cases that we hear. The bulk of what the Board of Revision handles is the valuation complaints. But there are a number of other items that we handle, remission of penalties, manufactured homes, and probably the second largest that we've handled over about the last 10 years has been the expedited tax foreclosures that were established by House Bill 294. So those hearings have largely been on hold for about the last year and a half due to litigation. There's still a pending case in the Northern District of Ohio that's challenging the constitutionality of that process. But we have started hearing cases again after the Ohio Supreme Court issued its decision in Feltner versus Board of Revision in late May. We worked with the prosecutor's office and have started hearing those cases again. So one of the things that we were looking at was expanding who could be a hearing officer. Currently, everything is focused on an applicant's background basically as an appraiser, and that is still critically important for us. But to be able to attract candidates that may have some background, particularly in foreclosure, we added that someone could be a licensed attorney, and we put preferences for people that have hearing officer experience, such as a judge or a magistrate, but also with a background in real property law and in foreclosure law. So it largely expanded the pool of applicants that we could have. The one exception to that is that current minimum qualifications, an applicant needs to have at least an associate's degree for educational background. the other hearing officers and I felt that probably with the work that we do, that really should be at least a bachelor's degree. So those are the major changes that we made. We did include some things, sort of the typical job duties and some special considerations, the ability to sit in hearings basically all day long, and the ability to really have critical listening skills, critical thinking skills. But the minimum qualifications themselves are changed in that you can be a licensed attorney.
Gotcha, thank you.
Sure.
I have a quick
Mr.
question.
Chambers?
So you
Yes.
went from an associate's to a bachelor's?
That's what we're proposing, yes.
And then, but you also have the years of experience. Can any combination thereof, I believe, was part of that, right? I think it is, Ron. I
Believe
just-
so.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to check to make sure. We actually do not have an experience as a substitute for the degree.
Okay, but you're still certain that this is going to expand your capabilities? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And just, as I think I put this in the email, even though we currently do not have a requirement or that someone can meet the minimum qualifications by being a licensed attorney, 3 out of our 9 hearing officers are licensed attorneys.
Good, okay. I'm good.
But it doesn't affect any sitting members right now?
It does not. All of our current hearing officers would meet the proposed minimum qualifications.
Great, thanks.
So could I have a motion then to adopt the amended qualifications for hearing officer?
So moved.
By Mr. Carroll. Do I have a second?
Second,
By Councilman Gallagher. Calling the roll. Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Councilman Gallagher?
yes,
And Mr. Chambers?
Yes,
All right, thank you all very much. Second item under other business, the time off by plan, which was formerly the voluntary furlough plan. For at least the last several years, the Board of Revision has had a voluntary furlough plan for any non-union employees. And most of the staff that's eligible has taken this. The reason that I'm proposing this change is because with the mandatory furloughs that we took in 2020, we ran into an issue of under the Fair Labor Standards Act that exempt employees must take furlough in 1 week increments. And with a staff the size of the Board of Revision, we only have 21 staff members. It started to get to be challenging to take the furlough time. So in looking at this, we thought there might be an issue even calling it voluntary furlough time. We thought this was a good option for our staff to be able to have some additional time that acts like vacation time. So we worked with HR on this. HR had some concerns about calling it vacation time, which is how I originally drafted it, because in the current time and attendance system, my HR, there are different categories for vacation and for furlough, and they thought that it would be challenging for them to call it vacation. They understood why we had issues calling it furlough. We understand why they had issues calling it vacation. So we settled on calling it a time off by plan. The main point for all of you is that operationally this will operate exactly as the voluntary furlough plan had. But I thought that I'd like to give that background on why this is even something I'm bringing to you now. So do any of you have any questions or comments about this proposal?
Hey, Ron, is I assume law and HR comfortable with this approach?
You know, HR is. I sent to both the law department and to the prosecutor's office and explained what we were proposing to do, and I did not get any comment back from either of them. So I don't have any weigh-in from them. I don't know whether law or the prosecutor's office reviewed the the voluntary furlough program in the past. But I did send to them and did not get any comments back. I could hold this until our January organization meeting. Operationally, there would be a little bit of a challenge because our organization meeting is on January 11th. We were hoping to have, well, the way that it's drafted, the enrollment period is the month of November. And it'd be ideal for us to have everyone signed up and the time logged in for January 1st, which is when the staff could start to use it. But if you prefer to wait until I do get some feedback from either law or the prosecutor's office, we could do that.
Ron, we can make it based contingent upon getting something in writing from them. So we can give an approval today if the board members agree, and then contingent you receive something, and if you don't, then we can readdress it in January.
Okay.
Would that be fair if the member?
Well, when did you notify law of this?
I don't remember off the top of my head, Councilman.
Ballpark it.
I don't remember the first time I talked to them. The first time I sent them the final was recent because we had been working with HR on this. But this is something I spoke with Greg Huth about the issue with the Fair Labor Standards Act probably in the springtime. One option that I had considered was just changing the classifications from exempt under Fair Labor Standards Act to non-exempt, which would have addressed the issue of having to use the time in a one-week block. My opinion, and I think a number of others, is that our staff that are classified as exempt do meet the criteria for being exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And so there was a thought not to change it. I don't know what possible ripple effect that might have with other classifications if we did. So it was recent, Councilman. It was probably within the last week that I sent them the final version because we did not have, we were still discussing with HR up until last week.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should move forward with the contingency.
Agreed.
Thank you. And what I'll do then is this: the approval form that you have in your packet, I will change that to add the contingency, and then circulate the actual decision memo later. So with the amendment to make it contingent upon either the law department or the prosecutor's office approval, do I have a motion to approve?
I move that as amended.
All right, Councilman
Second.
Gallagher. Second, Mr. Carroll. Calling the roll, Councilman Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
And Mr. Chambers.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Last thing I mentioned a moment ago, but our organizational meeting is required by statute to be the second Monday in January. So we will have our organizational meeting on January 11th, 2021. I'll send that notice out, and I think assuming that we're still dealing with the pandemic, it will be the same format that we've had today. Is there any other business that any of the board members want to bring?
No.
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 All right, hearing none, we are adjourned